And we have our next session, which is SaaS first to AI first, which is the big question that a lot of startups, especially in the SaaS space, are asking, but people outside as well. That's the next chapter in enterprise software, or is it? We will be opening that session, but prior to that, I would like to thank our silver partners, Lufthansa Group. Also would like to thank our badge and lanyard partner and showcase and demo hub partners, Weko Binary. We would also like to thank Kalari Capital, that is our co-partner. And now I would like to introduce and invite on stage Thiyagarajan Maruthavanan, Managing Partner at Upekkha. Rajan, are you here? Oh yes, Rajan is here. I would like to invite them on stage for the session, which is SaaS first to AI first, the next chapter in enterprise software. Please welcome Goutam Kurumella, Senior Manager and Solutions Architect at the AWS team. I'd like to invite Vijay Rayapati, Co-founder and CEO, Atomicwork. Rayan Saldanha, Head of Customer Advisory Business Technology Platform, SAP India. And Aakrit Vaish, Co-founder and CEO, Haptik. So over to Rajan. Yep.
So as Aakrit was saying, that is a tough act to follow. So we'll try our best. So a few weeks ago, I gave a small session to a private group, and in that I was talking about how SaaS companies, 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, they can think about AI because that's the talk of the town. And then there in that discussion, I said something like, hey, you should not use all these keywords like, we are mobile first and AI first, because such keywords are clear indication of fake sloganism of CEOs. And the person attending that particular session, he said he agreed. And then few days later, he said, you can come and give a view on that particular thing. I don't know what he had in mind. He's like, if you are going to say AI first, then I want to see what is it that you are going to say. I can say those kind of things in a smaller group, but not in a public. So therefore, what I realized is that I needed a cop-out. I said, let us structure this as a panel discussion. I will bring in people who are not saying AI first, but are doing AI first. So for me, today we have Vijay, who is the CEO of Atomicwork. What happens is, if you look at changes, technology is about changes, right? And whenever there are big changes that are happening, that is when there is opportunity to make a lot of money. Right? People who don't have money, they ride on to that change, and then they get to make a lot of money. And we witnessed a few such change, right? And one was internet, the other was mobile, another was cloud. So Vijay is someone who wrote the cloud shift. He built and sold a company called Minjar to Nutanix. And now he told me that he'll retire and everybody should retire, not work so hard. But he's back again. I guess a platform shift like AI pulls in even retired founders to come back and then do another startup. So he had the cloud shift. Now he's riding the AI shift. Then I have with me Aakrit. Aakrit, many people know him as the CEO and the founder of Haptik, built and sold to Reliance a couple of years ago. But I came to know about Aakrit when he came and set up Flurry India office in Mumbai, right? And that's when he had come back from Valley, and that was the mobile shift. So he saw the mobile shift, and then he's now very, very gung-ho about the AI shift. And when you think about shifts, right? If you want to build applications on top of platform shift, you have to understand platforms really, really deeply. And for that, you have to understand how do these platforms work. So I have Goutam, who is part of AWS. And he's here to share, what are some of the things that you understand from a platform perspective if you're thinking AI first. But in all of that, most important thing is to understand what is it that the customer is doing and how are customers changing. So I have Rayan from SAP. Rayan is the head of customer advisory. The role, what it means is that he is the person that tells the rest of the technology folks on saying, hey, this is what customer is saying that they need. So I have a good, well-balanced panel here who will talk about what does this SaaS first to AI first mean. I'm going to start first with Vijay. Vijay, thoughts, AI first?
I generally joke that in a tech industry, right, we are like a fashion industry, so we keep changing trends very often. And both on tech side and frameworks and whatnot. But I think once in a while you generally have this order 10 magnitude earthquake which kind of remakes most of the landscapes, right? And for me, AI is like an order 10 magnitude earthquake, which will remake most of the landscapes as we know it. Some of them will be remade much faster. Some of them could be remade, slower. I think as a founders, investors, and technologists, what we are figuring out is which ones will be remade faster, so where we can go capitalize on that opportunity. I think AI first, AI native, AI at core, this is all like jazz. I think we should not worry so much about what the technical definitions of those things mean. What we really need to basically say is, as a founder, how can I take advantage of that to solve a problem in a way that where we can rewire the solution to, whatever the current solution. And hopefully pick a right problem in a right market so that you can actually build a really good company.
So, Aakrit, Vijay is saying that don't worry too much about jazz. I also said AI first could be fake sloganeering. But if you don't catch on the right trend, right, a lot of people go out of business. You've seen this when the mobile shift happened. Your thoughts on AI first? Is it fake, bad, or what is the case?
I think the terminology is used for whatever we prefer in a given situation, right? Which means that I think if you are pitching to investors today, AI first is cool, so you should say it. I think if you're building products and you're a product manager deeply thinking about how to build things, maybe that's also approach to take that, look, now everything that I know about LLMs and data and AI, can I build this slightly differently? But if you're a customer, particularly in the enterprise, buying product doesn't matter, right? If you're a customer who's fundamentally thinking about, I have a problem, I need a solution, I need to get it solved in the best way and at the right price point. Sure, if you can do it better with AI, that's great, but in the longer term, it's going to start mattering a little lesser. Where I think, amongst all of these, I do think there is an opportunity, or the particular person or the area where we should think about first is when building product. I think there is the way that you, particularly B2B SaaS software, the way you build SaaS software, the way you package it, and the features that every type of software will now have, given how powerful LLMs have gotten, I think will look very different. Even though the end outcome might be similar, but the way that it will achieve will be very, very different.
Ryan, what are customers doing, in AI first? Is anything changing from an enterprise customer perspective?
Yeah, our customers that we have spoken to, right, across 26 industries, one thing is very common. AI is not new for them. They have leveraged AI across multiple things, but with Gen AI coming in, three specific things, and I'd like to relate it to triple R, right? So the first R for them is the AI relevant for me? Is it relevant for my business process? It will help me run my business processes faster. Second, is it reliable? Whatever you have trained, is it just trained for fun, or does it really work in an enterprise scenario? And the third and the most important one, is it responsible? Yeah. So we have seen many of our existing enterprise customers who have burned their fingers trying to go first with AI, and they have lost their IPs. So they are taking it a bit slow. They're saying, we will see and just look at optimizing processes and making actionable insights. But we will take the leap with Gen AI once we are fully aware where to start and where to stop, and where do we have human interventions. So we were very amazed when our customers said, we are still looking at AI to assist humans and not to replace them. So that's what we are hearing from our enterprise customers.
So Goutam, you work with startups, right? So what do startups come to you for when it comes to the topic of AI, and what should they come to you for instead?
All right. Again, like Rayan said, right, so most of the startups or enterprises have been using AI in one form or the other. But from Gen AI standpoint, again, the recent trends, the way we are looking at certain things is there are three types of players, so to speak. One is the model providers themselves, who actually build those large models, be it image models, acoustic models, or language models, so on and so forth. The second class of users are the tuners, probably. The one who actually bank on the existing models, which are built by providers, and then fine-tune to a specific domain that they are trying to solve. The final one is actually the consumers, right? So where people actually consume either the fine-tuned models, something which has been instruction-tuned, or some other technique that is used by the tuning providers, or just use the base model as is, right? So these are the three classes of users. But if you look at the requirements that each one of them will have, it will vary again from company to company and startup to startup and enterprise to enterprise. For example, there could be something which the startup want to, integrate into an existing processes or into their existing product. They can actually go and start using the base model, and that's actually a quick win or something that they can experiment faster. But if it's not actually meeting the requirements, and it is a very different domain that they're into, and if the base model is not trained on the specific task or domain, that they need to again go and do fine-tuning stuff. Or if it's something that you can't fine-tune, then you need to again go and see if there is some way to sort of build something for your own need, right? So it will again change based on what your needs are, and whether again you want to use a proprietary model, whether you want to use an open source model, how big are the model that you want it to be, where do you want to host the model, for example, if you want to host it within your corporate firewalls, or you want to just access it as an API. There are a lot of decisions that will come into picture, but as a consumer, the starting point would be to sort of explore what is already out there, and again you can evaluate. Again, evaluation is the emerging area, so to speak. LLM evaluation. There are metrics that are constantly evolving. There's active research which is happening, but I think that's something that consumers need to think about when they're actually adopting these services.
So Aakrit, you tweeted almost maybe a month ago saying founders are not paying enough attention to the change that AI is happening, right? What are you doing, and why were you so restless about saying founders are not taking it so seriously?
The one thing that somewhat concerns me is, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from, right? Historically, right, taking the fashion analogy forward, when you think of trends or shifts in platform, historically India has been behind, right? And by historically, I mean if you look at a 50-year kind of time frame, right? We always are a little behind in terms of adopting it, and founders are a little behind in terms of building on it. When crypto and Web3 happened, that changed, right? It was quite the opposite. In fact, a lot of the wave, fastest adopter, fastest builders. So whether I'm a believer in crypto or Web3, I'm not talking about that. But at least as a player in the ecosystem, that was a positive sign that now we're building with the world. UPI was probably an innovation that's ahead of the world. And similar examples have happened over the last 5 years. I think for some odd reason, when it comes to AI, the pace and shift of the way founders are building in other parts of the world is far higher than the work that's been happening in India over the last year. Another great example of that is, you and I were chatting about this last week, about, who else could we do a session with, whether today or later or whenever, who are the founders, and we can barely think like 3-4 people every single time we think of Vijay only, because he's doing some amazing work in terms of new companies, right? I mean, even Haptik's been around for a long time now. So, I think, and that what is that odd reason? I don't know, but when you ask people, the answer is same. Oh, India is always behind. Let LLMs get built. We will then build products. But I don't quite get it. That's what concerns me, that all of us, we are an AI first company, so we have no choice. But everybody, whatever you are doing across the board, if you're building software, you should be pivoting the way you're building it, right? To make it AI enabled first, whatever you want to call it, but your products will be far superior. And as founders who are building in the space, founders who are starting out today, there are so many opportunities across the board that it feels like you're barely scratching the surface.
So Vijay, what is it that you are doing that others are not doing? Or why is it, it's a little paradoxical. On the one hand, we are calling this the fashion industry. All startups is the fashion industry. And you are saying that, don't get carried away by fashion. All the latest fashion trends, there's all this paradox for everybody here in the audience.
Yeah, no, I think there are like a lot of founders. So I was doing a session last Saturday. There were like some 200 founders who are like building in AI, right? But like now the problem is, obviously we are not doing anything at the core. There are very few people who are basically building the core LLMs, right? From this country. And I have a different take on it, unless you are per capita GDP is at $40,000, you can't like invest a lot in R&D, right?
So Vijay, when are you building your LLM?
So I think it doesn't make sense for you to build an LLM, okay? Why? Because, if you are planning to provide a horizontal software for other people to build AI apps, it makes sense probably for you to go build some LLM, but I'm building an application software. So the customer doesn't care what database I use, what LLM I use, what API I use, what operating system am I using. They really don't care, right? So which customer comes to you and says, I hope you're using Oracle database or Mongo database or etc., right? So that's up to the technology team or the founding team to decide, okay, do I want to use OpenAI versus something that AWS offers or Vertex of Google, or maybe something open source, right?
The word LLM actually triggered a thought. How many are building an AI startup or building on top of an LLM or thinking about building an AI startup? 1, 2, 3, 4.
This audience looks like most investors.
How many are actually interested in building an AI startup? I mean, investors also can build.
Okay. I think.
So what does an LLM mean?
I mean, an LLM doesn't mean. See, basically. Okay, so if you look at like what internet has done for us, internet basically has normalized the cost of distribution, right? Whether that's a content, that's a mail, that's a, buying something. We are hoping that this new thing called LLM or Gen AI broadly will do the cost of creation to come down. Whether that's a content creation or a workflow creation, whether that's audio creation, video creation, or an image creation. I think the cost of creation will certainly come down. What it essentially means is a lot of things that as humans we are doing, in a support workflows, in a business workflows, even in a consumer workflows, could be short-circuited, probably 10x faster, even 100x faster, which means a huge productivity to be unlocked. When software is all about productivity, if there is a way for you to unlock productivity, why not use that to unlock productivity versus doing it traditionally?
So what I'm hearing you say is that platform or underlying operating system, it doesn't matter. And if a country doesn't have $40,000 of GDP, then we should not be thinking about building operating system. We should be thinking about building solution.
I mean, that's the reason why we don't have a desktop operating system from this country or a mobile operating system from this country, or some of these things, right? Look at Tejas, like that's a great example. Took a long time to build. I think the first order came from Jio. I think Jio gave like a few $1 billion order to Tejas Networks. And when you do a core work, it's very, very hard for you to have that longevity of 20, 23 years for you to go build a network operating system that essentially could be used and deployed by Fortune 1000 companies or Global 2000 kind of companies. I think I'm hopeful, in this decade or maybe by next decade, if country doesn't get to even $40,000 GDP, at cities level we are already at a $10,000 GDP. At a Bangalore level you are already at $10,000 GDP. Hopefully, some of the places where we have enough so that people will go back to doing some of the core work. And at this point, if you're a founder, don't worry about building LLM is my advice. Take advantage of what is out there and deliver that 10x to 100x productivity for your end customer.
Yeah, I want to come back to
100%, right? So completely agreed. But I think where I was going with this was, at least what I was trying to say, and back to the concern was, even the pace of what people are trying to build over LLMs also seems not as active as let's say we would like, right? There's a lot of developers and founders trying to sort of play around with it, but not seeing as many solutions. And there could be, we spoke about this the other day, right? There was, in my mind, there's going to be like two types of problems to solve. First is going to be problems that have already existed, for which there are certain solutions. But look, now you can take LLMs and make them far better, and you can build it far differently, similar to like I think what Vijay is doing. And the second is, I like to always think of this Instagram or WhatsApp for mobile, right? Like those things would not have existed if there was no mobile. So similarly, there has to be software applications that we are not even thinking about today that we couldn't have imagined in a non-AI for world.
So I'm going to change the question for the audience, right? By the way, you also wear an investor hat, right? I mean, the peer check. So the question to the audience is, how many of us want to make money?
I mean, anybody who is not raising hand is lying.
So then let us talk about this SaaS first and AI first, more from a perspective of how is it that, in this platform shift, right? What can we think about in terms of saying, hey, I'm an investor, I'm someone who's working in a large company, I'm a founder. What are money-making opportunities? I'll start with you, Aakrit first, and then go to Goutam, and then Vijay and Rayan.
From an investor perspective?
From just say that, how can people in the audience make money because, Gen AI is there, looks like it is a cool thing.
How can people in the audience make money using Gen AI? That's the question. Okay, go ask ChatGPT.
I'm hoping that your answer is better than ChatGPT's answer for the audience.
So look, I mean, the obvious first thing is to build. If let's say, even if the good part about any technology shift is that you have a chance to learn, right? Everybody has a chance to learn, because I love the Chinese saying, right, that when the game of chess is over, the king and the pawn go back in the same box. Every platform shift provides that opportunity, which is that today, well, not today because now I've read a lot, but let's say since 7 months back when LLMs first came, honestly, how much I knew versus all of you knew could have been the same. And even today, not many people have learned or moved far ahead. So one chance is to really learn and build. Building is the best way to try to build a company, start up, solve a problem, and eventually make money. I think if you want to invest, I think the challenges or problems are not investing in AI. Then the question and the problem becomes of angel investing in general. So there my advice would be not about investing in AI. There probably will go on a different topic and tangent of why you should not maybe angel invest your hard-earned money. But that's for a later.
So Goutam, whenever there is a shift, right, people who are making picks and shovels make the most amount of money, right? AWS is in this particular place where, whether it is a cloud shift, whether it is a Gen AI shift, people will build, but the platform will make money. Anything else that you have to build on that in terms of in moving with AI first, what are wealth creation opportunities?
Yeah, I think Aakrit first said, right? I think you need to identify the problem. If you're not identified the right problem, and you can't actually think of a solution. But if you have a problem in mind, that something you want to build and scale, then think about how we can actually implement it or execute on that, right? How we can make it faster, how we can scale it faster, how we can run it cheaper, for example, right? How we can optimize from a cost standpoint, day-to-day operations. I think these are some of the fundamental things that you need to think, and it's no secret again, it all boils down to the underlying cost. It could be platform costs or the way you architect things. But at the same time, get the right team in place so that people know what they're doing and actually how to leverage some of those things which are already out there. From AWS or platform standpoint, there are immense innovations that are happening, especially to support, I would say, various kind of use cases. For example, the way you train models, the way you inference. There are different chipsets that we have released. We have our own team. It's essentially an acquisition that we did a few years back from Israel called Atomicwork Labs. I'm not sure how many of you actually know that. They are very specialized chipsets for training machine learning models or doing low-cost inferencing at a much better price-performance ratio. I think those are some of the innovation on the ground level. The second thing is actually on platform things, right? How quickly you can experiment. How, if you are actually using any of the AI models or the newer LLMs or image models, how fast you can experiment. And it's not that you have to try only one, but try 50 different models which are out there and see what is the right thing that actually fit your needs.
So I was expecting Goutam, you and Aakrit to say, hey, here is one company that you can invest in or go join and work with them. Let me ask a similar question. You have some customer insight in terms of like the things that you talked about, right? Identify the problem. Is there a problem that you think founders here can go build an opportunity around, or investors can build around it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rajan. So I think the first step is to identify your industry. Every industry has a specific problem. Like in Bangalore, when SAP went to all the services industry, right here, the first problem that they said is how do you attract and retain talent? Can I use Gen AI for that? And in fact, the use case that SAP is building on is to create job descriptions automatically through Gen AI, help the hiring managers attract the best talent. Okay, you cannot copy the idea now, but you can attract the best talent in the market, help the interviewer ask the right questions. That is also important. Get the feedback into the system and then negotiate better. So this entire end-to-end process, and also then having customized learning and development plans for the users in that industry, right? So that is like a very big scenario in services. What I just like to say is, going back to the three aspects, your Gen AI inferences and output needs to be trusted by your business users, right? We had a very, situation in a manufacturing plant when the AI gave an output that you need to shut down this machine or else it will, not work. And the operator just said, I know this machine better than AI. I will not shut it down. And there was a conflict. Okay, and he did not shut it down. And it did work. So the trust that needs to be built with AI, it also is a change management within that organization. So when you're building your product, also think about the end user who's going to use it and whether he will adopt.
The human in the loop. So
and keep the human in the loop. He has to tell which is accurate, which is not accurate, not the machine.
Vijay, I want to come to you in terms of what are opportunities? I know you're also an investor.
Yeah.
So what are the opportunities from an investment perspective? What are opportunities from going and building a startup in this platform?
Yeah, so if you spend time, comparing LLMs, tuning LLMs, etc., AWS makes money. You will not make money, right? Mostly you'll be paying money to them. And so I think generally as humans, right, we get too excited about new problems, I think the real money is always in the boring problems, boring and complex problems, okay? Now let's pick something like there are probably 100 companies doing marketing automation. The most boring workflow in marketing automation is attribution, where a human needs to go tag saying, did it happen because of this campaign, that campaign, how do we reconcile, is one area. Accounting, you basically, individual tax filing. Just take a look at individual tax filing, how painful it is even for us today to go, kind of do it. Look at any enterprise service management back office workflows in every function. Pick a boring problem. Look at the existing workflow. Just rewire the workflow. I think you will build a great company. If you try to solve blockchain, AR, VR, some metaverse using AI, you mostly will not make money. The big guys, platform guys will make the money, because you will be running, simulations on, hundreds of GPUs. So typically my approach always been pick most boring and most complex, because that's where the money is. Humans don't want to do that work. If it is very exciting, if it is complex, we still want to do as people, right? And as a founder, you should always go, apply this framework of saying what is complex, what is boring, so that, I can actually use software to, rewire that workflow. If it is a cloud wave, rewire that workflow using cloud. If it is a AI wave, rewire that workflow using AI. And because tomorrow there could be some BI, CI, who knows, right? So my suggestion is just go pick boring problems. Don't work on imaginary, non-existing problems, or
Fashion-like looking problems.
Yes, because there is no money, right?
So, Aakrit, during the mobile shift, right, a lot of people went into building mobile applications, but none of them we don't even remember. Maybe there is a Snapchat, maybe there is an Instagram, and maybe there is a WhatsApp. In this also, like Vijay said, AWS will make a lot of money. So in this platform shift, even if a founder wants to go and build a startup, he may not have as good an odd to win. What are odds for, how do a founder increase the odds for win, or how do an investor help a founder increase the odds to win in this platform shift? And what is the India advantage? What you and Vijay sort of...
It's a difficult question. Okay, so how do you improve the odds in this platform shift? I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. See, with every platform shift, it presents an opportunity to start at the same level playing field as anybody else in the world. So this also goes back to why I'm concerned why not enough people are reacting faster, because it gives you an opportunity to use underlying operating systems to build lots of products on top. So I would not build the LLMs also. I would also pick workflows and boring problems, though let's not call it boring because then it feels like it's really boring, right? But pick like complex problems that nobody else will do. Money-making problems. I think the difference between, let's say, the mobile shift and the AI shift is a very core difference when we keep thinking about this. See, the mobile shift came with a certain other angle, which was mass distribution. Right? It came with the fact that not only is there a different way to build something, but along with that, you're also getting a different store or a different platform to be able to sell your product. Here, that's not the case. Right? Here, fundamentally, you will build software differently, but the go-to-market is still going to be cold calling 1,000 times and going door-to-door or events and doing the GTM. So, in that sense, something I've been thinking about a lot, I don't really think building in India for AI, the go-to-market or the success playbook is any different from building a SaaS company. I think it's fairly similar. It's just that you can build it differently, you can build it better, and in the current world where everybody is building it, you can be in a level playing field versus maybe, let's say, when we started building first SaaS in India 10 years back, we were slightly late. So maybe it's a good time to not be late again.
You're saying just start a little ahead. Any thoughts on the India advantage to add?
So, I think we all knew historically that there were cost advantages because we were building from India, trying to sell in US as a SaaS. I think one of the reasons why we didn't had much difference now, like most of the Valley startups, right? They are setting up centers in Bangalore or Noida, everywhere. So at least the R&D side of the cost advantage or the support side of the cost advantage is normalized, right? So there is no longer, I'm an India startup, so I hire in India, you're a Valley startup, they can also hire in India, right? So there is no cost advantage from a R&D support perspective. I think one area where people should look at Whatfix kind of a model where you can actually still land 80K to 100K deals, ACV deals from India, and then use the US presence to expand on those deals, right? So go-to-market is the next half of the cost any company spends. There is still cost advantage if you build it smartly, intelligently, but the cost advantage won't be there if you assume, I can hire 10 engineers while the Valley company hires 2 engineers, or like whatever, 3 engineers, because the productivity levels, as Aakrit said, are getting normalized, right? Even a half decent engineer who can use smart tools can produce fairly well written code today, which was probably not possible even just a couple of years ago.
Just to finish your point, but I think we're agreeing that basically, to address your earlier question, there's no difference in an AI first company and a SaaS company. I think the principles of what will work, what we have to do remain largely the same.
So the only difference is if you're a SaaS company, you're still burning investor money and you're not still getting free cash flow. If you build AI first kind of a company, don't think from technology perspective, think from an efficiency perspective, right? Today you look at like any SaaS company. No, you look at, you look at any SaaS company.
AI first requires so much more money.
No, any SaaS company today you look at, even $1 billion revenue, you need 10,000 people to go get to that $1 billion revenue, which was true 20 years ago. You need 100,000 people to get to $1 billion revenue. I think when someone says AI first business, for me it's like, okay, with 1,000 people, can we really go build this company, which can actually get to $1 billion kind of a revenue, right? There were like 1, 2, 3 very odd examples, in the last couple of decades. they were like not the majority, right? So hopefully AI will enable us to build lot more efficient businesses, because I think we have seen time and again, right, as companies grow, there is like too much of inefficiency in the company because you bring too many people, coordination among too many people, and that just the dead weight for the company. I genuinely believe if there is one area where AI will make dramatic impact beyond technology, is your ability to build super efficient business. Hopefully founders apply those principles, right? So with this, I want to open it up for the audience if they have any questions for the panelists. If you could state your name and say who the question is for, which panelist.
Sure, thank you. My name is Jagan. I run a SaaS startup called EC Daily. It's a hyperlocal commerce platform. We just started a couple of years back, and yes, it's a bootstrapped company and SaaS platform. We're too late, but SaaS. Now, we have to be AI as well to grow and survive. We see it very clearly. A lot of startups like mine do not know what next in AI. Should I go and hire resources? Should I go and get another service provider who can help me? Or even if I have to hire, what should I be doing next? What next is a big question. Or should I have a team of people or me going and reading stuff to understand what it is and do that? So what would be your advice as the next 3 steps that I should have to do from SaaS to AI?
Is that directly to
I'm sure like Vijay or Aakrit, yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. So the great thing about Gen AI compared to previous AI ML is you don't need specialized talent. You don't need like PhD mathematics folks to really help you build AI stuff. So even a software engineer can essentially build. So now the question of what I should build is again like don't do any imaginary workflows. You look at like whatever commerce workflows that you are doing for your customers. I think one of the area where I would probably apply if I'm in your shoe is cataloging. I think that's an area which is error prone. There is data need, there is a data generation need, curation need, which will help them improve discovery, if they do right descriptions, tags, and whatnot. I think that's probably one use case where I would,
It's boring as well.
Huh?
And it's boring.
Yeah, it's boring as well, right? And so that's probably one use case I would say. And the third thing is, the trait of a founder is having ability to figure out, right? Ability to figure out doesn't mean you need to go learn it. Either you find someone to figure it out for you, or you get someone to figure it out for you, or you figure it out yourself, right? These are like timeless first principles as a founders we need to apply to be really successful. Don't go to service providers because they have no idea of your business. They have no idea of your use cases. They have no idea of your customers. They'll just like put together some code and probably give it to you. Maybe useful in some situations. In this specific situation, I would not do it if I'm in your shoes. So one small thing to add after Aakrit.
Sorry. So very prescriptive. I'll give you the answer. Literally what you can do after you leave today. Okay. When smartphones came, what did you do?
Try kind of.
No, you first bought a smartphone. Then what did you do? You downloaded apps. Then you used those apps. Do the same thing. Right? Go back today. Just play around with ChatGPT. Start making it a daily part of your life.
And open an API.
Well, you'll come to that. Start making it a part of your daily life. You'll start imagining as a founder where all this could be used in my business. I'm assuming you're a software business. You have a tech team or a software team. Take 2 people from your team. Your call, take the smartest or not, that's up to you depending on how you run your company. Take 2 people and tell them for a week to not do anything else but just play around with OpenAI APIs and come back with whatever they want to build. It could be related to your product, unrelated. Ideally something that fixes. Just by doing these 2-3 things, I think hopefully 2-3 weeks some clarity will start emerging and you will start figuring out what's next, and then whether you want to build, whether it makes sense, whether you should hire, all that comes after that. And those answers will come.
Yeah, I think Aakrit said it very well. The only small part that I wanted to add, plus one on what Vijay said is, the Gen AI brings AI above the API. Earlier it was below the API. Now you don't have to worry. If you have any engineer, if you know how to deal with API, all you have to do is to first play with the apps and then later play with the OpenAI APIs or any other LLM-based APIs.
Yeah, so most of the use cases that you're discussing will be wrappers around the infrastructure which are getting on these will be the applications that you built up. What is the doctrine of defensibility? Is there a more thing?
We'll have the AWS guy. So everybody builds on AWS, so what's the difference?
Yeah, so anybody can build this wrapper.
So actually,
You don't need a PhD in mathematics.
Yes and no. In a sense, okay, at what layer you're operating is what you need to really think, right? If you're just a user of a model which is already out there, so that's fine. I think you just are building certain applications, and as a consumer, you also have the flexibility to switch the models, right? So you can just change the backend, and there are frameworks today, fantastic, like LangChain or Llama Index. You can actually change from one provider to other provider, and so on and so forth. But there are also other things. For example, if you're getting into specific domain adaptations, for example, if you have used your own data to fine-tune an existing model and you have a defined model, how you want to actually use it. Again, you need to sort of consult a legal counsel actually in terms of who actually owns that. And this is one new thing probably in the AI space, right? I mean, who actually owns that? And every model has its own TNCs, and you need to actually go through whether it's actually open source, whether who owns the derivatives of those models and stuff like that. I think that's one new thing probably as an organization you need to keep an eye and see how on which model is the right fit for your business.
Probably, I think I'll take your question. So is like, what's the differentiation, because it's a wrapper, right? So if you look at software, everything is a wrapper. C is a wrapper on, assembly. C++ is like on C. JavaScript is in some kind of a C++. Every damn thing in software is always a wrapper. So how do you build differentiation? Very simple. You pick a specialized workflow, build integrations, do permissioning around it. That's a real work, right? Not like calling, inserting data into database or asking ChatGPT to summarize or create, any of this, right? So the historically how we build software, those things are not going to change. The only thing that this might force, this is if, I think previously we had opportunities to build a lot of horizontal software. I think today, that opportunity of building horizontal software is getting super commoditized because of platform providers. You have to focus on building specialized software. So to give you an example, if I am starting today, I will not build a CRM company, right? So there is no point you going building, yet another CRM for anyone, right? I'll probably pick a saloon CRM or a restaurant CRM or like a dental clinic CRM or a physician CRM or a physiotherapy CRM and really go build that damn verticalized software. That's a huge opportunity to actually go build that. And everything is a wrapper is my thing. I think that should not demotivate people. And the way you basically build depth is, if you go build for a specialized use case, specialized workflow.
So the defensibility question, sometimes in my mind, it also measures. You have to think at the context. Are you a small company? Are you a 0 to 1 company? Are you a large company? And then you're worrying about defending your turf. So depending on the context, the answer changes. But in the earlier stage, defensibility is not even a question, or moat should not even be a question in consideration. If you look at software and SaaS, the only moat for SaaS is its brand. Right? You can talk about some data being like a little bit of a moat where the switching cost is there. But otherwise, there is no moat in that. Like how he said, every software that is there is just a wrapper. If you really think about moat comes because you have a license. Moat comes because you have network effect, or moat comes for Coke because there is a brand. In the initial stages, you just have to go and figure out, play around with the toys and play around with the API and then see, are you going to go generate a Snapchat, are you going to generate a WhatsApp, are you going to create a Zenoti like a saloon CRM? So that should be the main focus of the question. At this point in time, a defensibility and a moat will be too premature if you are less than 10 million.
It's the first, the problem is, it's the first ever wrapper that has become a consumer product, which is the launch of ChatGPT. And when you play around with it, makes it feel like, oh, everybody could do this and build on top. But to Vijay's point, it's always been like that. It's just that it's a lot more visible and you can use it every day. And related to that, somebody else who was saying to the other question, right? In every software shift, typically, especially when you're selling into the enterprise, we've always seen that we're educating the enterprise about this new software shift. Because of this consumerization of AI and ChatGPT, I find that when I go into an enterprise today, they are either as knowledgeable or sometimes even more knowledgeable in terms of what's going on and experimenting in-house. So I think it's just because there's been this consumerization of like this new kind of software wave where you feel like it's different, but actually it's the same as how every software has been built.
So we are up on time, so I'd like to wrap up. Goutam, in maybe 1 or 2 sentences, in a year from now, on the topic of Gen AI, AI first, what are people going to still be speaking about?
I think people will be talking about the end of the actual hype, and they'll be talking about the substance cycle, and they'll be talking about the real productivity of the outcomes. The focus will be on outcomes and results.
And in your view, what are people still going to be talking about?
I think they'll be talking about work-life balance, getting more time back than spending time at work.
We can come to you after.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I already spoke.
What are people going to be talking about a year from now?
I think people, we always, overestimate things in a short run. So next year is not going to be different. We will be thinking, AI will change this, that, blah, blah, blah. I think don't worry about short term. Think long term for your business as a founder is what I would say. And just build.
And underestimate the long term.
Don't underestimate the long term. We always overestimate when shifts happen in the short run and underestimate the long run. I think Bill Gates people attribute it to him. And if that is so true, because as a founder, if you just keep building and, for the problem that you're working on, assuming, with a customer centricity, I think you'll have a great business. People can keep talking whatever they want to talk.
I think the conversation doesn't change much, except I think the conversation around jobs becomes real.
Conversation about jobs.
In a year.
The only counterpoint I want to add is 2023 is the year when the most number of humans have ever employed, despite like decades and centuries of automation that we have invented. I don't expect job displacement is going to happen.
Yeah, but I think the topic of he was talking about what are we going to be talking. I think.
We'll be talking about it.
So I would like 4-hour work weeks instead of 40-hour work weeks.
That's not going to be
And
talking.
we'll bring this panel to a wrap. Gentlemen, thank you for those wonderful insights.
Thank you so much, guys.